Welcome viewers at already the third episode of the third season of Franky and Coen's Ukraine Insight. We have guests in the studio. Today we have, of course, our expert operator Starsky. Then we have journalist, TV host Mikhail Fishman from Dozhd, tvrain in English. And of course we have Koen van Oosten.
And Franky van Hintem.
Yes, and then of course we have some streams. We have Alyona Gramova a little bit later on the stream. But we start right now with Rick the Ukrainian. Rick, are you here?
Hello, guys.
Hi, hello. Rick. How are you doing?
Do you know what this means? This hand with the fingers. What do you call it?
I'm a Star Trek fan, bro. I know what this means. Yeah.
So Star Trek, yeah. So what does it mean?
That means live long and prosper. That's what I wish you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We wish you the same. A lot happened this week. The best news probably 60 billion euros is coming from the US to Ukraine. Will it be in time? Will it be there fast? What can they do with it, Rick? Do you have any idea about that?
It should be really fast because part of the aid, as I've heard, is already waiting somewhere in Ramstein, closer to Ukraine, not in US. So it should be fast. Let's hope tomorrow Senate will vote on it fast and Biden will sign it the same day. So I think then that's just a matter of weeks.
Is that so, Operator Starsky?
We all do hope. Of course, we understand that a lot of time was just wasted. And when we're talking about time, of course, we mean human lives. And today, for example, Russian forces took south of Ocheretine, which is another loss to us. We could prevent it if we had at least proper amount of artillery shells. And of course, 6 months we lost a lot of men. I lost my comrades as well. I'm not counting, it's a bad habit, but a lot of them. And we do hope that this aid will help us.
Yes, and will all this money be spent for weapons, or is it free to use for Ukraine how they want? Do we have any idea?
So first of all, we really expect that these funds will be spent for long-range weapons. It was announced that there will be 8 ATACMS missiles included in this package. So hopefully we will see more precise strikes on the basis of the Russian invaders.
But the Russians know it now. They show more fighting now. More.
Yes. The Institute for Studying of War concluded that Russians will try to push as much as they can using this window between the between today
I'm afraid of that.
And the arrival of the weaponry. So we can expect the front line to be very, very dynamic in the most close time.
So, Rick, it's good news. It's a little late, but let's hope it will make a sufficient difference. Actually, you're our co-host, and well, you have a statement, and maybe you have some other things you would like to say at this moment?
Yeah, guys, let's begin with the statement. You can vote up there in the chat. I see 47 votes. So the statement is, if Putin's out, the war is done quick. Explain your answer in the chat. Yeah, you can also do that. But there's only 2 options, yes or no. Please vote there. So what do I have to add? I think we will go with the flow, guys. Nothing to add right now.
No, we do that a little bit later. Then also, a little later, we will tell about our shelter, which we are opening in Ukraine. But for the shelter, we need a name. It's a shelter where people who come from the very hot areas and who have been taken to freedom by Dennis Christoph. These people will have our shelter to live in, but we're actually looking for a good name for the shelter. And people feel free to give your input. And if somebody today gives the right name, the name we choose, then we will send this person one of our badges.
Nice. Yeah, guys. So please put the possible name into the chat.
And Rick, do you know a name?
We'll make a list.
For yourself? For the shelter. Do you have a name for us?
No.
Think about it.
Time. I need time.
Yes, you do. Okay, let's actually go to Starsky. You're our expert about many different fields regarding this Ukraine war. We would like to start with a video of Chasiv Yar.
Я обращаюсь к народу Украины. Искренне хочу, чтобы вы нас поняли. Мы ни в коем случае не хотим нанести вам вред. Не верьте тем, кто пугает вас Россией. А как мы могли отказать людям, которые там проживают, взять их под свою защиту и под крыло? Невозможно. Просто нас поставили в ситуацию, когда мы не могли поступить иначе. Весь юго-восток Украины, он всегда был пророссийский. Ну, потому что это исторически российские территории. Дело в отношении к людям. Но и только для того, чтобы их окончательно там не раздавили, не съели и не порвали. И будем это делать дальше. Мы хотим, чтобы на всей территории Украины, в том числе и на Донбассе, был мир и процветание.
So, Starsky, is that true?
You know, I've been to Chasiv Yar last year. We operated there together with Max, my second press officer, now he's first press officer of my brigade. And already back then, in September, it looked bad because the Russian positions were approximately 5 to 6 kilometers from us. And this town was shelled every single day. So currently we would not be able to bring journalists like we did back then to Chasiv Yar, for example. So what we see here is, of course, misinformation that is spread by Putin. And you know, worst thing is there are people on the West who believe that nothing like that happens in Ukraine. And when they're shown such pictures like that, the one that we saw, they believe that it's actually Ukrainians bombing and shelling themselves because
it's staged.
We have this, you know, crazy suicidal tendency. Whenever Russia attacks Ukraine, we tend to rape our own women, kill our own civilian, strike our own houses, and basically kill ourselves, which is, I don't know, like a Ukrainian feature or something. It's crazy.
What do most of the people in Russia think about this, you think? Do you have any opinion about it?
Yes, I think I do. Well, unfortunately, Putin's propaganda is quite powerful. It's very powerful, and it's perceived through the lens of not the narrative of saving Donbass that Putin comes up with for, what, more than 10 years now. It fits in a bigger story of Russia's being victim of the West in many ways, and that's how it's being translated by Russian propaganda. That's how it's put on TV. That's how basically what average Russian starts his day with and ends his day with. It's the 24/7 recycling of the same conspiracy theory about Russia being attacked by the West. And this frustration, it comes from the 90s. Actually, it was then put forward by Putin when it came to power in the year 2000, and that's the cornerstone of his message to the Russian nation from the very beginning. So Russians live with it for 24 years now.
And in this 24 years, people did not see that maybe not everything is true, what's coming from this propaganda machine? Do you think that younger people equally as much believe this than, for example, older people?
No, there is a huge difference. There are actually two Russias. The Russia which watches television, national television, and Russia which follows social networks, internet, and YouTube, whatever. And if you take a look at the polls, then you will see that there is a huge difference that Russians over 55 years old would be much more prone to Putin's propaganda than those under 25.
Yeah, you just cannot speak openly about it, probably. It's very dangerous.
The stories has to be on the street. The people, they talk with each other, they come in somebody's house and...
But it's a risk to talk on the street, because maybe you trust me and I trust you, but maybe there's one of your friends.
Well, just to give you an idea of how people might feel about that, just today, an individual Russian was sentenced to 5 years of hard labor just for answering a vox pop question on the street about how that happened in summer 2022, and he was asked about the war, and he gave his opinion about what happened in Bucha or something, and now almost 2 years later, he received 5 years of hard labor, just a stranger on the street.
And this foreign journalists, like this journalist from Fox, can they freely move in, let's say, Moscow and ask these questions?
Journalists from Fox?
No, I mean international journalists. If a journalist from, let's say, a Dutch newspaper or from the Dutch TV channel is in Moscow?
Well, that's a good question. As you know, probably I would say most of foreign journalists already left Russia and now cover Russia from abroad. Basically the same as we do, but still, as I understand, CNN is still present, and some others, but not many. But they're basically, you can probably count on fingers of one hand.
Can they freely move, and can they ask these questions? Is only the Russian person who answers?
That happened 2 years ago. I mean, so much changed since in 2 years. So I seriously doubt that.
Yeah. Well, he said a lot. He said we don't hit civilian houses. Well, we've been to Avdiivka. We've seen there's nothing left. This war, 99% civilian houses. We see it in other locations, and
we are bombed in the restaurant.
Yeah, but many locations where you see that it's civilian and they bomb it. So this is not true.
I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the previous show, but when this invasion started, we received a lot of warnings from Syrians who said, never make locations of shelters with your children and civilians public for Russians, because if you do, they will deliberately strike those shelters. And that's exactly what we saw in Mariupol when this theater was hit. And there were 10 meters across those letters saying "Дети," children.
Yeah, we saw
it. And it was hit deliberately. So
we've seen several cars. In Bucha there is a kind of monument. It's all cars put together and they painted, and there are several cars where was clearly written "Дети" on top, children, and they've still been shot. Then in the news this week was about Russell Bentley. I think many people will not know who's Russell Bentley, but we have a video from Russell Bentley.
Stand up. Сейчас работа. It's chaos on the front line with the denazifiers and liberators of Ukraine. so far, Russia has used about 10% of its military power, and we're getting ready to bring the hammer down. These guys are going to save and liberate all the good people in Ukraine, and the bad people, boom, kick their ass.
Well, one of these bad people got kicked his ass because Russell Bentley is not living anymore. He's found dead.
He got denazified.
He got denazified, yeah. Yeah, they found him, and it's I'm not sure now, actually maybe Rick has an opinion about it also, if Rick can hear us. Rick,
I can.
Yeah, actually, well, he's been killed, beheaded, or how you call it in English. Any idea from which corner came this?
Okay, there were rumors that those so-called DPR forces were actually suspecting that he's a NATO spy. Russians, they always look for the spies among themselves. And of course, the obvious choice is American, who's fighting for them since 2014.
Any ideas on this?
Yeah, we have some details. I made a short update on that several days ago. So there was a strike on the positions of the 5th Armored Brigade. And this strike was very successful. They lost a lot of men, and they were furious. Russell arrived to the scene to cover this situation. And for those who don't know about the Russell Bentley call sign Texas, he was a convicted drug smuggler in the United States. In 2014, he went to Donbass to fight for the Russian hybrid army, married a local Ukrainian woman, and settled there. And after a while, because he's a good rooper for the Russian propaganda, he became a reporter, basically a propagandist. So he arrived to the scene, and because we're talking about tankers, which are known for their addiction to liquids, okay, heavy liquids, strong liquids. They apparently decided that he was a spy, so they took him. I cannot confirm the rumors about him being decapitated and or raped, but we have other rumors coming from the Russian sources that Russell was beaten to death by drunk Russian officers.
Yeah, he died in pain.
Yeah, and
yeah, he died of pain. that was clear. But do we think it came from Russian side or from Ukrainian side?
It definitely came from Russian side. Also, this was confirmed by Vostok Battalion terrorist group. It was also confirmed by Simonyan, which, by the way, tells us one interesting thing. So we know that there's a lot of mysterious deaths happening in Russia and around Russia. We're talking about influential Russians, people who know too much, basically. So this death was apparently a traditional Russian mishap, because Simonyan talked openly about it. Like, if it was assassination, if he knew too much, I want to, make sure that nobody falls for those conspiracies, because if it happened, nobody would talk about him, in order not to attract attention.
It was top secret.
Yeah, but Vostok called to punish the responsible, and Simonyan said that they will punish responsible. So basically, it was a mishap, and that's exactly what happens to people who support Russian terrorism.
Are there many around there?
Well, I was scrolling that list of Russians who mysteriously died, influential Russians, not only influential businessmen and oligarchs and,
Yeah, but I mean from guys from the West. This guy Was from America?
Plenty of times. Just last month we could all see videos not only from the West, from Africa as well. Last month there was published a video of African mercenary wearing Russian uniform dying on the battlefield.
I mean, a person that makes the propaganda. This guy. There are
several deaths, and that's an interesting topic because there were several, let's say, several deaths of Russian reporters reported in the Russian media, but nobody knows the names. So I remember such cases, maybe you remember as well. There was some strike in Crimea, another strike in Donbass, and every single time it was reported that our colleague, Russian reporter, died. For some reason, nobody spoke out the name, which is kind of suspicious.
Yeah.
Clear. If all is good, we have Aljona also in the stream. Yes, there she is. Aljona, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good evening, everyone.
How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Very good.
Well, this week you were out again to make a video for us, and it was actually with soldiers. Can you tell a little bit more about them?
Yeah, this week we have many jobs. Many times we driving to the front line. Today it's very difficult because all the time even press officers thinking, and which time we have to drive. That's all because of drones. And actually, yes, I make a video for you guys. And we also see the Russian supercam. It was the first time actually, because before we were often hearing information about Orlans, about another drones, but we never see the supercam. But this time when we're working with the guys, yes, exactly, we make a story a little bit about this. It was the Liman direction, and you can see.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Early morning, it is necessary to leave for the place of permanent combat duty of Ukrainian tank crews as early as possible. Serviceman says that dropping mines do not fly here often, but unmanned enemy reconnaissance aircraft are seen and heard by Ukrainian defenders over their positions every day.
Різні чуєте постійно? Ну, звичайно, так. Найбільше навіть орлани, суперками, російські.
The forest where the fighters are based in the best camouflage for combat vehicles. With the onset of spring, the tankers themselves feel comfortable here.
Настрій хороший, тепло. Літо йде. Пташечки співають, то що треба. Романтика.
If there is no combat mission, tankers are busy with the technical conditions of their machines. These tanks are equipped by thermal imagers. Communication is provided by Starlink, and the camera on board helps to see an approaching drone in time. But tankers still come under fire.
Це від чого?
Мінометний осколок.
А серйозний такий, де?
Танку не страшно.
Also, on combat missions, tankers must take with them an electronic warfare system. However, it's not 100% impact protection.
Противник зараз на нашому напрямку літає в більшості на одних частотах, він може їх змінювати. Ну, це як боротьба щит і меч. От я чув таку фразу, це дрон і реп. Тобто така йде між ними боротьба.
Тобто 100%...
Ну, 100% захисту, звичайно, немає.
Our conversation with the soldiers is interrupted by the sound of flying drone. Tankers immediately determine what kind of drone it is.
От, бачите? Це крило. Це суперкам російський. Тут часто літають. Це таке крило. Да.
Він,
От такий от він. Не Орлан або суперкам. Це бумеранг.
Supercam can be in air continuously for 4.5 hours, and shelling can begin in any moments. We go to shelter, but such moments for tankers are not as scary as the battlefield.
Точніше, це коли по нас б'ють, можуть спалити, що не виліземо туди. Все. Є такі кацапу, такі штуки, що пропалюють танка нас. насквозь, да и все.
In any moment, tankers can receive a combat mission. Sometimes the break is only enough to refill the combat machines. Liman direction, Donbass, especially for Franky and Coen.
Well, Operator Starsky, we missed some subtitles here. So can you explain a little bit more about what was said by the soldiers?
Yes, all the soldiers were enjoying the weather. It's really hot in Ukraine, really nice warm weather. Yesterday it was 5 in Germany. It sucks, but they enjoy the quiet moments of peace when they don't have a combat mission, and they were showing, different traces of fragments from the mortar fire, from the Russian mortar fire, and they were also talking about the radio-electronic warfare that protects them from the Russian drones, and there was a drone spotted flying above the forest. Unfortunately, tanks are do not give 100% protection from the drones. And I think that Aldona can talk more about this as well.
Yeah, because Aldona, what actually is this supercam? What is this drone, what they call supercam? What makes it so super?
Actually, this drone can fly, I think, 4.5 an hour, just all around. They just looking and looking for coordinates, looking for positions, and just taking all information about this. But it was somewhere around 10 kilometers from the front line on Liman direction, and in any seconds can begin the strike from artillery, from everything. We just start to work, and all the time just afraid to not make a good filming because of the guy said it's all the time like this. Supercam just taking all information, is flying very high. Actually, on a video you don't see this drone, but we have the possibility, because in this moment I also take my camera and trying to записать звуки, the sounds, taking the sounds, for the video. But in 1 second, I just see this. He is the black one, and actually, it's why it's not good, because he taken all information and just give all information, with coordinates of the positions, and after this, it's not good. So even in the forest, they can see us. It's actually, guys, we're sitting very close to tank, but I think they see us in this moment.
But the soldiers did not look too nervous, to be honest. They were quite relaxed.
Yeah, actually, yes. A couple times I was asking, "You're not afraid?" They said, "Oh, this every day like this, 2-3 times we hear the sounds of Arlan or Supercam. It's very often for them."
But have Ukraine also a super drone?
Yeah, of course we have, but actually not many like the Russians. I have to say the truth, because next day we're also working with the drone guys. Yes, they're working with the drone with the mines, and we're driving very close to front line. And when we're coming back, we're also driving very fast, because they said actually many times there was a situation when FPV drones flying. Yes. And I ask, what you see this situation, and how you think, how many drones do they have, and how many drones do in one day? How drones can send the Russians? And he said, we send in 2 or 3 drones, and they send in 10 drones. So of course we have also, but not many like the Russian army.
Most of the soldiers that you see near to the front, are they young? Are they a little bit older?
It's actually a different situation, because you can see this, the young guy, he was only 24 years, he's an officer, 24, but the driver of the tank, he is 52. It's very often you can see, and young people and older people.
Because actually President Zelensky now signed a new law on the mobilization. We will have a little video about that.
It's a move aimed at ramping up Ukraine's troop numbers as Kyiv presses ahead with its grueling counteroffensive against Russia. After receiving the green light from lawmakers last week, a bill overhauling mobilization rules has been signed into law by Volodymyr Zelensky. It hardens punishments for draft dodgers, increases payments to those who volunteer, and requires men to ensure their draft details are up to date with the authorities. Controversially, though, a clause that would have enabled soldiers to leave the military after 3 years of service was excluded. According to lawmakers, demobilisation is set to be covered in a separate bill. But for now, long-serving soldiers have no clear timeframe for when they may return home.
People need to know what they're doing. If you were told that you were serving till 2025, you'd know that if you survived, you'd be going home. If people can't make plans, they get depressed and they start making mistakes.
More than 2 years after Russia's invasion, Ukraine is outnumbered and outgunned by Moscow's forces on the ground. Last week, Ukraine's army chief said that the situation on the Eastern Front had worsened and that Russian troops aim to take the town of Chasiv Yar in early May. It comes after Russia captured the city of Avdiivka in February, where some residents nearby are still reluctant to leave.
I don't want to leave yet. I want someone to help me get my documents. They're covered in rubble. We don't have money, not a penny. There's no pension, nothing.
As well as grappling with a shortage of manpower, Kyiv is facing delays in much-needed aid from Western allies.
Yeah. So what do you think, Aljona? Because it means that people younger can have to go to the army, they don't know exactly when they can get out. What's your opinion?
Actually, I was speaking many times with the militaries about the situation, about the age, and we have to understand, yes, if it's young people, it's more easy to be a trooper. Sometimes the guys told me the story like you know, they have to teach to be a trooper, yeah, how to get a weapon, what to do for the man who was 50 years old, you know. And he said, okay, it's not a problem, I will be a trooper, but I cannot just, for me, it's very difficult to go to the positions. You know, I told you before, I was one time, and I know how to go to the positions in the night, in different weather. Yes, how it's difficult, but I'm going only in my jacket and my helmet, and I have only camera with me. But when the troopers go to the positions, they take in with them some kind of 20 or 30 kilograms. It's a food, it's a weapon, it's a water, all they need. And of course, for the young people, it's more easy. For the older people, it's a little bit difficult. And sometimes the troopers, 45 years old, 50 years old, they said, no, I'm standing there not for 3 or 5 days when they have a change, you know, changes. Please leave me just there, because for me it's easy to stay there, very close to Russian positions, and for me it's very difficult to go this way. 2 kilometers, sometimes it can be 3 or 5 kilometers they just go in, and it's very difficult.
Yeah,
that's why in this situation maybe it's better, of course, to choose, yes, what kind of job for the age have to do our militaries.
Yeah, but still, people have their own lives. It's very difficult to say that people have to go to the army, or to say like you've been fighting 3 years and now you still have to fight. What do you guys think about it?
You know, I served my country 9 years since 2015, and already back then I realized that you either die or you fight.
But was it your free choice?
Well, of course it was my free choice, but now we don't have free choice. It's either. People who have personal life must understand that they must put it on pause, okay, their personal life, and think about what to do next. It's really comfortable and pleasant to think about your personal life if you live in peace, if your country is not attacked. 2 years since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, I spent, thinking every day what happens tomorrow, and in such circumstance you cannot relax. Me as a military, I could not relax like any time. So I think people must understand that they have to fight or they will die. There's no other choice.
What do you think if the salaries would be higher and if they gave the people the free choice to go to the army, but they would make it more attractive? Do you think then it would be possible to find enough soldiers, or that doesn't work?
There's two answers to this question. First answer is yes, of course, as a soldier you have to be sure that your family has everything they need back home while you're fighting. The second answer is in 2015 the salary of Ukrainian serviceman was approximately $200 before the salaries rose, and we didn't fight for money.
Yeah, but it was a free choice.
It was a free choice, but again, it's really important to make sure that your family has everything that's needed.
For obvious reasons, I'm not the biggest expert on mobilization in Ukraine, but as far as I understand, and that's what my friends in Ukraine tell me, that of course, it's a big issue, and of course, Ukraine has to fill the ranks in order to be able to stop Russian invasion, and only foreign aid is not enough. That's obvious. But as I understand, it's of course last half a year, more than that already, have been quite exhausting for Ukrainians and Ukraine, specifically after aid didn't come for many months. Now, with the aid coming, it created some kind of a vicious circle, because people don't want to go die when there is no ammunition, no armor.
They have no chance. Yeah.
No, and it just didn't make psychologically. It was a much harder decision. Then probably it will be now when the aid is coming, and it will break this vicious circle of people actually not wanting to fill the ranks. So probably now it will be much easier. Well, I don't know. Again, nobody knows, as I understand.
But the motivation will go up.
But that's probably the case.
I can confirm that. I talked to my guys, and they say that they have big moral boost, knowing that they finally know at least the dates. So they have some kind of, they are sure in tomorrow's day.
But what I think is the most difficult for a soldier, I cannot imagine to be a soldier in the front line. But I think it would be even more difficult not knowing when ends your duty. Like before, it was 3 years. You fight 3 years, and then you're free, if you want, to live your regular life. And with taking that away, I think it will drop the motivation also, because you see people dying, and you know that this is, if you have to keep fighting, one day it will be your day. If you don't know when you can go back home and your duty is done, I think that's extremely difficult. To my personal feeling, that might be a big mistake.
Again, I have two answers. I cannot tell you, something precisely, but in a situation when you don't have choice and when you're forced to fight, you have only like two options: to run or to keep fighting. That's something we all must understand. We were talking about it in 2020, in 2017. Back in those years, we were already talking that if Russia invades Ukraine, if there will be a full-scale invasion instead of the hybrid war, everybody will be serving. And Probably, I don't know, probably the armed forces didn't put more efforts into their strategic communication. I don't know, but this had to be somehow brought to people. Because currently we have a situation when, you know, somebody has like a peaceful life, and he realizes that, okay, now I might survive somehow and work and bring money to my kids. Okay, I will like survive without electricity for a while, and maybe everything will be fine. Somebody will fight for me, which is wrong. And again, I have full right to talk about it because I served 9 years. Yeah. So that's the situation. We had to have more efficient communication with the society, with the broad public in Ukraine. Unfortunately, it wasn't implemented.
Yep. Alyona, thank you very much for your input. In 2 weeks we will see you again. Thank you very much. Have a good evening and ticha noche, as they say.
Be safe.
Thank you. And for the end, yes, I also wanted to say everyone have to fight, because I'm a woman and you know how much I'm working here on the close to front line all the time. It's a big risk, but if we want to be free, everyone have to fight.
Thank you very much, Alyona.
Thank you.
Bye.
We will go to our special guest. I gave already a short introduction. Actually, I want to first go to Rick. Sorry, Rick. First I had to go to you. Is there any input about the statement? Is there any reaction on on this subject?
First, I want to read the comment from Christoph Bender, who said, a female soldier from ASOW said, you work on the front or you work for the front. It's a simple truth. So even if you're not fighting here in Ukraine, you need to work for the front line and provide army with what they need. So yeah, I try to follow that rule. And about the statement, guys, I want to call everyone who still haven't voted to vote, because it's 130 votes, and with 100 and almost 80 people watching, we can get more. So please don't forget to do that. Guys, is there any time for some questions?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, so there's a good one that I wanted to ask. Just give me a second. Need to pull it up. Yes. So it was asked by Andres Lach. Russia would for sure be better without Putin, but who would follow him? That might be even worse. Any suggestions, ideas?
I think it's a good question for you.
Yes, it's probably a question for me. Well, we don't know. The future is, of course, dark. Nobody knows what will happen after Putin. But my assumption would be that whoever comes after Putin, whatever it is,
can't be worse.
It can't be worse. It can only be better, and it will be better. We've been Russia history knows dictators and dictatorships falling down, and we've been there with Stalin, for example, and we all know that what succeeded Stalin was thaw, Khrushchev's thaw. And that's natural way of things. And of course, Putin's successor, whoever he will be in a very tough situation. But the drive for the war will be lost, because Putin is the main force pushing forward this, the only force pushing forward this war. But of course, there will be the heritage will be so dark that it will be very hard to deal with. But anyway, it will be. Nobody can say if the war will be over the next day, if the aggression, even if the war itself will be over by that time, it still will be a very dangerous time with Putin in the Kremlin. When he's gone, nobody knows what will happen next, but it will be easier, and that's when we will finally see the way out. That's how I would address that.
It's a clear answer.
What about his friends, thugs like Patrushev or Shoigu? They can become his successor too.
Yes, it's possible. And again, Khrushchev was one of main Stalin's aides, and he came from the same group, and he was from Stalin's Politburo, from Stalin's inner circle, and yet we know that he came up with the softening the regime, and it changed completely. So whoever will come, even if it will be Patrushev, who we know as a hawk, for instance, or
I also think that the other countries will give them a way out, because they can always say it wasn't me, it was Putin.
Well, it will be quite hard for Patrushev to say that, or for Shoigu for sure. But anyway, any one of them, specifically, I would say even probably Patrushev, if it's him, which I doubt, will be very eager to stop the war if it will be continuing, or to just change the political course and to try to find the way out.
We still don't know what's in their heads, so only time will tell. But
it's not about heads. It's not about. It's about political solutions and interests and major forces.
What will be the best way out for them also?
Just a short remark. Whoever comes after Putin, what matters is that if Putin is out, and hopefully he's dead, it will be a huge demoralizing factor for Russians, because they put insane amount of resources into creating the cult of Putin. They put insane amount of resources into, keeping him as a big chief Superman, flying with storks, riding tigers, swimming with dolphins, I don't know. And if he dies, it will be like death of, Kim Jong Il in North Korea. It will be exactly like that. So whoever comes after him, worst scenario is a nuclear war and we're dead. That's why we don't care much. We lived next to Chernobyl for like 30 years. We don't care. But it will be big, let's say, maybe not strategic, but a big operational win for Ukraine.
We will talk. Yeah.
I have an example. We have an illustration of how actually Russians react to something happening, something big happening. We had a revolt by Prigozhin last summer, and we saw Russians, the society, the nation, being actually quite silent about what was going on, and not stepping up to defend their leader. We didn't see that. So I seriously, I mean, of course it will be a shock, but I can't even possibly imagine the kind of national mourning that you would expect from Northern Koreans, for example, or some. No, you would. I mean, officially, yes, and propaganda would play this out, but I don't see this. There is no love for Putin, and we saw that in Rostov when Prigozhin basically took Rostov, and we didn't see inhabitants of Rostov taking to the streets in order to fight those who actually want to go to Moscow and against the regime and against the Kremlin, and in the end against Putin. We didn't see them.
I agree with you. Plus, mentality much better than me. But at the same time, what makes me concerned is that whatever Prigozhin comes to power next, he will say, "Okay, people, now I rule. Now you're in my control," and people will obey.
That's a different story, and that's again, that's where my first point comes in, which I think is the case, that whoever steps in Putin's shoes will start looking for ways out.
We've been chatting now quite a while, and actually, I think all Russians and a lot of Ukrainians know you actually, but we have a small video about actually, well, you're a TV host and journalist, but we have a small introduction video. Okay. It's a little bit late maybe, but we will show it now.
We spreken Mikhail Fishman, presentator van tvrain, vanuit zijn studio in Amsterdam. Waarom voelt hij de plicht om zijn werk te blijven doen vanuit het buitenland?
Now more than ever feel that I have this mission to bring this war back to Russia. It's a professional challenge, but it is also a moral obligation.
Door de oorlog en nieuwe mediawetgeving vluchten alle journalisten van tvrain uit Rusland. Zo kwam op het gebruik van het woord oorlog 15 jaar cel te staan. Mikhail vluchtte naar Amsterdam en presenteert hier sinds oktober zijn programma.
Moscow Times already moved here with the help of Dozhd, who is Dutch. So he basically invited us and helped tvrain to move.
De Moscow Times, de Russische krant van de Nederlandse journalist Dozhd, vond al eerder haar onderkomen in Amsterdam. Met de komst van tvrain lijkt Amsterdam het centrum van de onafhankelijke Russische media geworden. Een veilig toevluchtsoord met professionele en persoonlijke uitdagingen.
In Moscow, before the war, I was always part of my own story. And now I don't even know who I am in the story that I'm talking about. And that's the biggest, of course, problem. It's kind of an identity crisis that I, of course, still have.
Naast de persoonlijke gevolgen blijkt ook het verslag doen van de situatie in Rusland een lastige opgave te zijn vanuit een ander land.
The major problem is I don't know, going live or just having guest speakers in your show from Moscow, because with every new day and week it becomes more and more dangerous for them. But of course I miss this beauty of talking to people directly in studio, looking them in the eyes. That's beautiful.
So, how do you like to be in our beautiful country, the Netherlands?
Well, Netherlands is a beautiful country, yes, and it's probably, I mean, I don't know, but I assume it's the best choice. The best place we could have ended is Amsterdam, where we are based now.
Yeah, there's a lot of Russian media, free media there. And do you guys feel free here?
Yes, of course, yeah. Yes.
And are you worried to speak openly here? Because maybe you have family, friends, relatives in Russia?
Well, I have nothing to worry about. I'm totally exposed. I mean, there is nothing I can be more afraid of than I already am. So I'm already in a position where I have nothing to be worried about, because I'm on the screen and everybody knows who I am, and we're already past that.
Okay, and that's kind of the same probably for the other 75 journalists, which I understood are in
yes, of course, it's more or less everyone. I mean, it was not even a choice. It was our mission back in Moscow, when we were based in Moscow for so many years, and the question was. Our choice that we faced was either we just basically shut up, or we continue what we do, but from somewhere, because it was impossible. Starting from, like, in the first few days of the war, the new legislation was introduced, which was basically criminalizing any anti-war sentiment, outspoken or whatever. So for us it was, and if you face this kind of choice, either you just keep silent and stay home, or you leave, but you still follow what you do, and you still do what you always did. The answer is obvious.
And if I understood you right, you kind of told me that even people who give interviews to you, to Dozhd, TV program Dozhd, they are actually already kind of criminal by doing so.
Yes, this is exactly the case with tvrain and several other Russian media in exile already. we are labeled as so-called undesired organizations. We're not only foreign agent as a company, and I'm not only individually a foreign agent. That's part of the problem. The biggest problem is that we are labeled as undesired organization, which means that anybody who communicates with an undesired organization is faces, yes, criminal investigation, and which can result in prison term very quickly. So we cannot even interview anyone from Russia.
So actually, we are doing criminal.
Yeah, by Russian laws, yes.
We're criminal now by talking with you. Well, yes. I was criminal also a few days ago, because a few days ago we visited you in Amsterdam, and we had a small interview with you there. Let's have a look at that one.
In your opinion, Crimea belongs to
Ukraine. Donbass belongs to Ukraine. There are internationally recognized borders and international law and order which have to be respected. And those who break them have to pay for what they do.
I'm really happy that you say that, because...
But it's not
because a lot of people,
surprising.
No, but for a lot of people it is. A lot of people think, a lot of Ukrainian people think about opinion of Dozhd as being different. So I'm very happy that you say this, because it's very good.
This is absolute. This always has been tvrain's stance.
But then it's a misunderstanding. But
yes,
then we can clear that up. That's very nice.
That's what we. Yeah, I mean there is no question about that. No, not a single belief. We do share our load of responsibility for what has happened, because it's our government which started this unlawful and criminal invasion, and we couldn't prevent it. So we also bear our responsibility for what happened, and I totally understand Ukrainians who think of Russians as being behind this war and blaming Russia for what is happening. This is absolutely natural. I just want to say that that it's not Russia's war, it's Putin's war. There are many Russians in Russia who are totally against it and who feel they are also occupied by this regime and this dictatorship, and they try to resist as much as they can. And our mission is to here, because we are able to speak out, is to help them.
For you, it was a big surprise that the people who I spoke to were thinking that the opinion of Dozhd is different. It was a big surprise for you.
Yes, it still is.
Yeah.
Because tvrain's position is very well known. There is no, it's not a secret. You can turn it on and watch any show starting from when tvrain started 14 years ago, and there will be no question about that.
It hasn't been changed. It was always.
It never changed. My position about what happened in 2014, for example, never changed, and tvrain's position never changed. It's so clear. It's crystal clear.
Well, that's very good to hear. But in the interview, you also say that actually this is Putin's war and not the Russian people's war.
Yes.
Ukrainians, a lot of Ukrainians think different about that.
Yes, I know that.
They say that the Russians all have the responsibility.
Yes.
Maybe you guys have something to say about that, Rick or Starsky?
Rick, bro.
Okay, so what about those Russians who are being really happy in social networks? There are hundreds of thousands of them there every time Ukraine being struck by a missile and our civilians are dying, and they are really rejoicing for that. What about those Russian citizens who are not in the military, who are not forced by Putin to go to war? And a lot of them, as I know from the interviews with prisoners of war, went to war to just earn money. It's a way to earn money for them. Is it really Putin's war if those people choose to go and earn some money killing Ukrainians?
Well, that's a good question. Well, of course, those Russians who take arms in their hands and go to and join this invasion, this war becomes their war immediately. There is no question about that. And when we're talking about Russians who support the war, we know the numbers, we know the polls, we know that the simple question, do you support the so-called, which is in Russia it's called special military operation? Mm-hmm. The answer would be like 70-something% would say yes, but there is different meaning behind this yes. And it's not that these 70+% would rejoice about Ukrainians being killed and Kharkiv being shelled or Odessa being shelled. This is not the case. Of course, there is a group of aggressive Russians. The estimate of these actively pro-war, actively anti-Ukraine, actively pro-Putin in this sense, group of Russians is at around 20-25%. We would say that's based on independent polls that we follow and we trust. Well, to the extent we can trust polls in Russia, but it's not 70% of these Russians who leave these comments on social networks about being happy of what is going on. But this is definitely not the case.
But even then, Putin is chosen, already in power for, what is it, 23, 24 years?
Yes.
And all this time, he's been re-elected several times, and for sure people are not fighting against it. They're not, if now today at 10 o'clock in the evening all Russians would stand up and say, now it's enough,
yes,
then 15 minutes past 10 it would be done with Putin. In this way, you think there's not a little guilt?
Well, again...
Or even a big guilt?
No, I mean, there's difference between this being called Russia's war, or what I would mean Russia's war or Russian nation's war, and bearing responsibility for it. These are two different stories. And the story of responsibility is a big story, and Russian nation, whatever I think of Russian being guilty or not, will face this dilemma after the war will be over, of course. And as I told you in my interview, I never voted for Putin. I never worked for the state. I never received my salary from the state. Even I feel that I bear responsibility for this invasion.
Well, you're stepping up. If everybody would step up, it would be different matter. You're stepping up.
But when we talk about Putin being re-elected for several times now, what we have not to forget is that every Russian election, starting from 2007, which was a parliamentary election in 2007, and then in 2008, Dmitry Medvedev was elected president. Starting from then, every Russian election was heavily rigged. So if it would not be rigged, if it would be impossible to rig the election, this war would never happen. This is what I'm absolutely positive about. Russia's leadership, Russia's regime is a very hard dictatorship. It's in many ways heavier, stronger, and more cruel than Soviet rule was under Brezhnev, for example, in the 70s or early 80s, before Perestroika started. It's of course not that, well, deadly as Stalin's terror was, because people do not die in hundreds of thousands as
not in Russia.
Not in Russia, yes, not in Russia. But symbolically, it's very similar to what Russia went through in the 30s and 40s and early 50s. So it's just it's that kind of repression when you are basically it's very hard to stand up. I mean, people are jailed for few words for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. That's what's going to even 20 now. That's what's going on. So we just have to keep that in mind too.
But we see in Russia, McDonald's, all the big companies, the freedom was there. They see the freedom. How can it be not in your DNA to search for that freedom?
That's a bigger question. Probably we will probably not have enough time to get to the.
Could means that they tasted freedom. How could they let it fall down again? That's what you mean?
Yep.
Something like that?
Yes, that's what happened. That's what happened. Russia failed as a democracy totally. Russia failed as a civilized nation. Russia failed as a player on an international scene. That's already, and we are going. Russia is going through a catastrophe, which is probably, I don't know, similar to what happened after Bolsheviks' revolution in 1917. Just to understand the scale of what is going on right now. Yes, that took longer than Bolsheviks taking power in 1917, but Putin is in power for more than 20 years. Russia failed. Well, that's a whole story about why and how it happened. It certainly happened, and Russians were unable to defend their freedom as, for example, Ukrainians did in 2014.
Starsky?
Yeah, I agree. And also it raises several questions because when you said that Russians bear responsibility, and it doesn't matter whether they're guilty or not, but they all will be responsible basically for what happens. For example, like Germans. After the World War II, they all had to admit the shame and take it as it was. But how do you, let's say, how is this responsibility, for example, for you as a journalist and for your colleagues? How does it look like today? What can you do today to make this, to implement this responsibility in the real life? For example, besides your job.
But that basically my job is what I do to deal with my responsibility issue. That's of course huge part of that, and I'm in a much better position than many, because I can actually do something. Well, I can bring, at least try to bring this war back to Russia and to counter Russian propagandist narratives and to do what I can. I'm talking on behalf of our team as a whole, and not only I would say bigger Russian media community, which is larger than just tvrain, and of course it's like I would say more than 1,000 probably journalists across Europe, not only Europe right now, doing and feeling the same as I do. We are in a much better position because we know that we can do something, and it of course helps us to live through these horrible times. But we certainly know what we have to do. We have to bring this war back to Russia, to make Russians understand what is happening as much as we can. We are, of course, our opponent is much stronger. Russian national television is much stronger and has a stronger, bigger outreach than we do. But that doesn't mean that we have to shut up. So that's what we do, and that's again makes my life much easier, of course.
Do you Do you accept the fact that in order to stop the war, Russia must capitulate, basically?
I doubt that I can't see it at the moment. It's very hard to imagine. I can't see. You mentioned Germany and Germany after the war. I don't think this will be the case because of obvious. Yeah. I mean, we all understand that Russia is a nuclear power, and we can't. It's hard to imagine Moscow being occupied by Allied forces as it happened with Berlin. So it will be a much more difficult case, and that's this dark future ahead of us that we just don't know how it's gonna play out.
Yeah, and in your opinion, what can Russian independent media do to help this effort, okay, to help fight, let's say, to help protect democracy, right, to help protect civilized world against Russian terrorism? And do your journalists do some kind of humanitarian efforts for Ukrainians, maybe Ukrainian army or Ukrainian refugees or humanitarian relief efforts, anything like that?
For example, I think a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, there was a special sort of live marathon on which on tvrain, but joined not only by other Russian independent outlets based, of course, outside Russia, in order with the mission to collect money to bring shelter and aid to those who had to leave their homes in Ukraine. That happened recently.
Mm-hmm. That's you have my respect for that, because you know, when you said that your mission is to bring the war to Russians, it sounds very inspiring to me as a Ukrainian, because one reason Ukrainians don't really, let's say, trust media, even independent Russian media like Dozhd or Meduza, is because there's a lot of implanted Russian imperialism in different speakers. Navalny in 2017 called West not to bring weapons to Ukraine. It was in Washington Post. Max Katz, who always criticized... I have a screenshot. Max Katz, who criticizes like Ukrainian protests and during the Maidan and things like that, and calls to integrate Russian culture into Ukrainian culture, which was forcefully integrated by Bolsheviks for almost a century and things like that. And that's the reason why Ukrainians don't really have trust towards independent Russian media. In your opinion, how can this be solved, and if it's even possible?
Well, there is a problem, of course, and I definitely can see that. First, I want to stand up and defend Navalny in front of Ukrainians and Ukrainian audience. Because, yes, that's the case, that Navalny started his political career as a nationalist, let's put it like that, and he made some controversial statements about Crimea. I don't remember about weapons. I don't remember, but probably it's even true. But Navalny came over that, and he definitely changed his position. We know on the first anniversary of the invasion in so it was last year, February, he came out with a statement from jail in Russia in which he absolutely openly stated that Ukrainian initial borders of 1991 should be totally respected, and this is a criminal war that Putin started. Yes, that was probably too late. And this is also true, and Navalny even probably said something about that. But in the end, he came out as not only fighter for Russian freedom, but also, as I totally believe, the fighter for Ukrainian sovereignty and Ukrainians in this war. For me, this is out of the question. I certainly know that, but of course there will be this gap, and again, as I stated in the interview, it's natural that it exists. What I can do about that is to be very open and to bring my own, for example, understanding of how and what happened in 2014, even before that, between Putin and his government and Ukraine, and to open eyes of those Russians who still think that there was genocide in Donbass, for example, and also make Ukrainians feel that there are Russians who are totally who from the very first day, from even before 2014, were totally there was not a single voice of nationalism or imperialism or anything like that. And there are many Russians like that, and you can, I don't know, check out Ilya Yashin, for example, who was doing time and who was 7 years in jail. Vladimir Karamurza doing more than 20 years now, and many others. So it's not that Russia is single organism which is imperialistic from the very start, which this is simply not the case.
I think we could talk hours about it.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, but that's
a short one, but a very short one.
That's of course an important issue. So
it is an important issue, very important.
Very short question. Speaking of Russians fighting for Ukraine, what is your opinion about the Russian Legion Freedom for Russia and Russian Siberian Battalion and Russian Voluntary Corps fighting for the Ukrainian defenders?
Why would I make distinctions between them and Ukrainians, for that matter?
Just an opinion, because if there is something that can really, like, to me as a military, something that can really make difference is Russians really fighting wherever they can, with whatever they can, with words, with weapons, but fighting in this war against the terrorist regime. That's very important.
It is all very important, but once again, we could talk about it very long, but we have limited time. I think actually there may be more countries who do not want to be really that close with Russia. I know that Russia calls Ukrainian brothers, and they call people from other states brothers, but there's a lot of countries which do not want to have that connection anymore with Russia. I think Russia should just accept it. And what is the big problem about it? Just carry on and accept that other countries don't want to be together. There's actually a song about it from people from Lithuania, I think, about this brothership between Russia, that they actually don't want to be brothers. Maybe we can have a look at this video clip and hear this song.
Никогда мы не будем братьями, ни по родине, ни по матери. Духа нет у вас быть свободными, нам не стать с вами даже сводными. Вы себя окрестили старшими, нам бы младшими, да не вашими. Вас так много, а жаль безликие. Вы огромные, мы великие.
Никогда мы не будем братьями ни по родине, ни по матери. Духа нет у вас быть свободными, нам не стать с вами даже сводными. Вы себя крестили старшими, нам бы младшими, да не вашими. Вас так много, жаль, безликие, вы огромные.
Вы все маетесь, свою завистью вы подавитесь.
Воля слова вам незнакомое, вы все с детства в цепи закованы.
У вас дома молчание золото, а у нас жгут коктейли Молотова. Да у нас сердце кровь горячая, что ж вы нам?
Глаза бесстрашные, без оружия, мы опасные, повзрослели и стали смелыми, все у снайперов под прицелами.
Нас коты на колени ставили,
Мы восстали и все исправили.
и зря прячутся крысы, молятся,
Они кровью своей
Rick, can you hear me? Well, you can hear me, but we can't hear you. No sound. Still no sound.
Oh my God, it's happening again.
Sorry?
It's happening again.
Yeah, it happened before.
Yeah, but while Rick is recovering, song is good, but the problem is Russians produced so much more than that during... okay, he's back.
I'm back. Sorry for that. There were so many questions to Mikhail in the chat, but I think we don't have time to answer even one of them. What do you think?
Pick one.
Pick one?
Yeah,
okay.
If it's okay.
Okay, let's actually then choose this one. Do your journalists, the journalists of Dozhd, cover what happened in Bucha or Irpin?
Yes, we did. It's simple.
Yeah.
Good. That's a simple question. Thank you. Okay, guys, do you want to talk about poll?
Yeah, let's go to the poll, yes. If Putin is gone, the war is over quickly.
Thank you for voting, everyone. 181 votes there. We have yes 57% and no 43% accordingly.
And did somebody give special reasons why a yes or why a no?
I don't think so. Chat was very active discussing anything that you guys and we were talking about, but not actually explaining that much. But I think it's close to 50-50. And guys, what are your opinion on that?
Well, I think the war might over, but I'm not sure what will happen after that. If depending on who will be the next president of Russia, and it depends on. Yeah, I'm not sure. I would not leave my defense go down if I were Ukraine. I would. Yeah, it's difficult. I really think it's difficult to answer. You guys, what do you think?
I would stay with the people, and I would say 50-50. Either yes, either no. I would like to know what our guest thinks about it, knowing that he knows the mentality of the Russian people.
As I said, I think that next Russian leadership would try to start finding the ways out. But what I'm positive about is that as of now, we don't see any special risks for Putin's power and Putin's rule. So his position looks very stable at the moment. Well, anything can happen, as we saw last summer, but at the moment it's such. But I can't see this war going on at this scale for very long. So the active phase of this war will be over before Putin is out. That will be the situation that we will face. The active phase of this war will be over. Putin will be still the leader of Russia. That's how I see it.
Why do you think so?
Because
you didn't hear me?
As I said,
sorry.
As I said, Putin. There is no risk, obvious risk for Putin power at the moment. So he is gonna last for some time. It's 5 years, 10 years. We don't know, but I don't see war going on for 5 years. It's just impossible.
Rick, we got a little bit in shortness in time. You had actually a few items which you wanted to discuss. Let's pick one of them.
Yeah, let's talk about Tu-22, the Russian bombarder, strategic bombarder, destroyed. That's the first case like that. Maybe we'll watch the video.
A plane has crashed in a field in the Krasnogvardeyski district of Stavropol Krai, Russia. Regional Governor Vladimir Vladimirov reports that there were no casualties and the pilots ejected safely. This unverified video circulating online allegedly shows the crash site. While the authenticity of the footage has not been confirmed, it has captured widespread attention. Photos released by the governor show debris with a 5-pointed star and Russian Aerospace Forces insignia. The Russian Ministry of Defense has stated that a technical malfunction was the cause of the crash. The pilots have been evacuated and are currently receiving medical treatment at a local hospital.
Why is this such big news, Rick?
Because that's the first case, any strategic bombarder, which is actually a big chance that it is a Ukrainian one, because they were given to Russia in 1998 when we were denuclearized, being destroyed. So you see, this puts at risk Russian, as they thought, undefeatable air space, you see. And I also wanted to, okay, I think we don't have time for that, but anyway, I had a question for Mikhail, the last one, because I just wanted to know his opinion on my opinion. Guys,
go ahead.
Can I ask that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm actually convinced that the only way for Russia to really, not for Russia, but for the world to stop Russian continuous invasions and genocides is for it to stop being an empire. That means to let the minorities in Russia, who are actually the majorities in their own states, like Tatarstan, for example, or Ichkeria, to give them their own state, to give them the chance to become a state separately from a big Russian empire, which conquered those territories in some hundreds of years ago. What do you think? Do you agree with me that this is the only way to stop this madness?
I'm not sure, but I don't know. I simply don't know. That's such a big issue that it's hard for me to tell. I'm Russian, and I don't know. I don't know how Tatars would think about that after the war is over. I don't know how other nations that live in Russia would feel and think about that. I don't know what's the best solution. That's simple. But I don't think that Russian imperialism is tied to its actual size right now. That's not my opinion.
Rick,
okay. I just want to propose to start talking to the leaders of minorities in Russia. They really already talking what they want.
We do.
They are telling that.
We do.
Rick,
good. Good. Thank you.
I hope. Well, I think we had a very interesting evening. A lot came on the table. We were short in time because we wanted to talk about our shelter, which is actually already active, open, because we had to give some people shelter already. Although the plan was to open in May, we wanted to talk about bombing in Dnipro and some things more. Maybe next time.
But one thing, our children that we want to...
yes, well, we're going to talk about it in the next show also, I think. We want to take some children from Mariupol who live now in Dnipro to give them a nice holiday in the Netherlands. It's going to be in the end of the summer. We have time enough to talk about that next time. I need to thank Rick, Aljona, Koen, thank you very much. Our guests on the table, thank you all very much for joining us. And everybody, have a good evening, and see you next time at Ukraine Inside. Thank you all very much.